Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you doing today? How is life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope everything is good and grand and wonderful. Everything here is pretty darn great. And I know yesterday I said I wasn't going to do a review of Pokemon here, and I'm not. I'm not going to do a review, but I am going to talk about it today. I'm not necessarily going to talk about specifics, but if you want to know nothing about this game because you want to discover it for yourself, you might not want to watch. But I'm not talking specifically about anything concrete about the product or the storyline or any of that. I'm just talking about, I'm using it as a method to talk about versioning. That's what I'm getting at. So I finished Pokemon. Put probably, I don't know, 30 hours maybe into it. I could have completed it faster had I not spent time running around the wilds and just finding new things. But I enjoyed it. I'll just give you that. That's my review. I enjoyed it. But there's been a lot of pushback from the Pokemon fan community about this game because they cut so much of the available Pokemon out of the thing. They introduced new stuff that was half finished, or the world didn't feel robust, or whatever. There's a ton of pushback from like super Pokemon fans. I'm not one of those. When Pokemon came out, I was in the Marines, or it came out just while I was like a senior in high school, and at that point I wasn't playing kids games, and I didn't have a handheld that could play them. Never had a Game Boy SP. I had a Game Boy and a Game Boy Color, and that was it. So I missed the whole wave of Pokemon. When I was in the Marines, I owned a comic book store in Hawaii for a little while, and I made a lot of money off Pokemon cards because at that point it was like 99 or 2000, and the East Coast was just getting Pokemon. Like, it hadn't spread across the country yet. And because, at that time, it's really interesting to think about how global the world is right now, how trends are global now. Whereas before, even in that time, there was internet in 99, 2000, but it was not as widespread as it is. It wasn't in use in your pocket. You had to have a computer, you had to go there and learn, and so it wasn't a constant thing. Whereas now it's completely constant. 100% of the time I can look stuff up. So things still spread slowly, and as a West Virginian, West Virginia has always been like 5 years behind on trends. But now, not so much. But now trends spread much faster. So at that time, the Pokemon cards and the craze had just kind of hit the East Coast. So I was buying like Gen 1 Pokemon stuff, or trading kids for their cards, and then selling it on eBay, which was a new thing at that time, to people on the East Coast and making a ton of money. So that was my introduction to Pokemon. Prior to this game, the only Pokemon I've played have been redos of the originals. So Let's Go's and Fire Red, and basically I've played a few different versions of the original games. And I enjoyed them, but they're definitely marketed towards a younger audience. There's not a lot of challenge to them. There's not a lot of figuring things out. It's hold your hand a little bit, and you can finish them pretty quickly. And what I find with this new game is it's no different. Like, the big complaint that people are having is like, oh, this is a console, it's the first Pokemon console game, but it doesn't have any console features. And yeah, you're right, because otherwise it wouldn't be a Pokemon game. Pokemon games up until, even this current one, have just been these handheld games that were very trimmed down games. They were the most base JRPG they could possibly be. There was not these vast cities. It wasn't an open world. None of that exists in this current game because it wouldn't be a Pokemon game. It would be something new. And the funny thing is, there's a lot of pushback because there wasn't anything new. But there hasn't ever been anything new. Like, there is new things. There's this new Wilds, which is an open world. It's a kind of an expansive area that you can run around in, but there's nothing to see or do there. Just catch Pokemon. That's it. And there's different biomes that you can find different types of Pokemon. But there's no, cool little side quests or anything like that. And there's camping and cooking and Dynamaxing and stuff that is new, but it's nothing it adds nothing really to the game other than activities, little side activities that you can do. And that's been the big pushback. And so I've often said, you know, with a game like this, it's still the same game. It's still a game geared towards younger players who don't understand min-maxing or how to maximize a team. You know, I still play the games like a gamer, so I just pick my 6 Pokemon and I run them through till the end of the game. And by the end of the game, I'm severely overpowered. I'm way over-leveled because I haven't traded out, oh, this new Pokemon's cool, I'm going to trade him in because he looks neat. I don't do any of that because why would you do that, you know? But that's how the game is intended to be played. You catch all these Pokemon and you try them out and you find your match. I just pick 6 and go with it. And for me, I enjoyed it because it is just Pokemon. But I also think about it in the terms of, is it time for a Pokemon 2? Like, there's never been a Pokemon 2. There's been Pokemon all these different generations, which are really just remakes of the original with new stuff in it. There's never been like a Pokemon 2.0. There's never been a, let's try the battle system in an open world RPG, or let's try a tactics game with Pokemon. I mean, I'm sure there might have probably been a Pokemon tactics game, but what I'm trying to say is, I think it's time for the game to reversion itself and become something bigger. And I think that's the actual complaint, that they haven't done that. Now that it's on a console, now that there is more than just handheld play, there should be more than just handheld level capabilities from the game. There should be voiceovers. There should be much larger areas to explore and side quests and, you know, fun stuff. And I agree with that. But as a Pokemon game, it's exactly like all the previous Pokemon game, minus some Pokemon. And it was good for that. So the question is, you know, when do you get Drill 2.0? Like, when did Drill 2.0 happen? Well, I guess maybe Keyless Chuck was Drill 2.0. That's when it became like a really easy-to-use tool. And then Battery became Drill 3.0. You know, when is it time, when you're developing something yourself, software for instance, when do I decide, all right, it's time to kind of rethink how this software works and build it? Do you ever do that? Like, the tools that I've currently worked on have just kind of slowly evolved over time. And if you look at the version that is in existence right now, it looks completely and feels completely different than previous versions. But it wasn't like we stopped working on this one and started working on the new one. It just slowly progresses. So, you know, looking at Pokemon in that way, it's time for it to stop and start over. And there's a lot of products that I think, just like we talked yesterday with the, you know, personalization of tools, it was time for me to stop trying to use somebody else's product and make my version. And maybe someday there'll be a Chevee Tool Belt 2.0. When do you make the decision? As a game designer, as a developer, as an artist, when do you make the decision to stop and refresh from a clean slate? That's what I want to know. In the comments, go down there, say something. Say, nice beard. Tell me I have a nice beard. I don't, but you could tell me. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends, being wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you tomorrow. Alexa, tell me a random fact.
Here's a fact about chimney swifts. The chimney swift looks very much like the closely related Vox's swift, but is slightly larger, with relatively longer wings and tail, slower wing beats and a greater tendency to soar. By the way, you have one new notification.
I didn't ask you that.